waiting for Facebook Live, but then it gives me some weird message.
I'm, I'm sorry for the delay. We did have dry runs and tried to practice. I have to remind myself Murphy's Law.
All right, so we'll just hit record when you're ready.
Okay. Are we ready?
All set. Oh, wait, Charlie's not here.
I'm here.
Oh. Okay. Well, again, welcome to our author talk with two wonderful. Welcome to our author talk at the Oakland Public Library. This is a part of our Black Culture Fest celebration. So Black Culture Fest is, for lack of a better phrase, for us, by us. We wanted to expand Black History Month beyond the past and celebrate some of the things that are happening in the current. And we wanted to celebrate everyone across the diaspora. So my contribution is to talk to you, and I wanted to bring you to bring the book, the new Brownies book, expose it to the people in Oakland who may not come by it in the library. I really want them to come and look at it. What happened was when we purchase books, we don't touch every book. And so I'm on the computer and I see the cover and I'm like, oh, that book is beautiful. I would like that in my library. Like, totally selfish. I wanted it for me. Then the book comes in and my jaw drops. And I'm like, oh my God. I hope to heavens they'd be willing to talk about this book, because I've already been reading it to my sons. I've been telling everybody about this book. So thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Brown. Thank you, Mr. Palmer. This is the most awesome, not coffee table book. It's already tabbed book that I have owned and through my library. And this will be staying here permanently. This is one of the books that do not go away. So
Thank you.
And that's just my honest reaction. So I wanted to say thank you very much for being willing to talk to the residents of Oakland and around the interwebs today. And for those of you on Facebook, thank you for coming. Thank you very much. The handsome gentleman with the beard is Mr. Palmer. He is the illustrative director over this lovely art, and all of the lyrics, I hope I'm saying this right, all the literary is by Dr. Brown, who we'll talk about your credentials with both of you later, but I wanted to get into the book if you did not mind, because I know your time is valuable.
That's fine.
All right. So, of course, my first question is, what inspired you? And this is for people who have not read this beautiful book yet. So what inspired you to create this book? Because this is a love letter to Black families. So what inspired you to give us a love letter in the middle of February, in the middle of Black History Month, in the middle of Valentine's Day?
Hey, why don't you start?
You know, there's a love story to it. I thought, like, you tell it best, sweetie. You start and I'll jump in.
So, hey y'all, first of all, shout out to Oakland. Thank you for having us. And Nicole, thank you for the beautiful, luscious introduction and your kind words over our book. So, I'm a sociologist. I'm a professor of sociology at Emory University here in Atlanta. And one of my areas of expertise is that I am a Du Boisian scholar. I read Du Bois, I'm influenced by him. I write books and articles about his scholarship and life. He kind of has lived with me for at least the last decade, if not more, of my life. Years back, around 2016, when I was working on a co-authored book on Du Bois's sociological body of work, corpus. This was an academic book that I was working on, and it required quite a bit of research. Du Bois's archives. And I came across these letters that he was writing to people who are now luminaries of the Harlem Renaissance. And it was kind of like, you know, Du Bois is very proper, and um, some might describe him as aloof. So these letters were very uncharacteristic of him. It was kind of like he was begging. And the letters
Mm,
went a little something like this. He would say, um, Nella Larson, I need you to contribute a piece of original work. I need your best work to go into the Brownies book so that Black children will know that they are thought about and loved. And then he would go on to say, but I can't pay you. Maybe next year, maybe next year if things are going a little better, but yet and still what stood out to me, he said, but I still need your best work, right?
mhm,
So I said, well, what is this Brownies book? And these letters were from 1919, 1920. And Du Bois, in fact, along with his editorial team, founded the very first children's periodical to focus on African American children as a matter of joy and consequence. And it's called the Brownies book. And it was a compilation of contributions, and I'm talking poetry and stories and art and plays, all in this magazine, for all children to enjoy, but he said, especially ours.
Mhm.
And that just moved me so much. And I brought the concept to Charley.
mm. And Mr. Palmer, what did you do with the concept? What was your
Yeah.
first reaction?
So initially, when we first discussed it, it wasn't an idea of something that we would take hold of
Mm-hmm.
or create. It was more like this is needed right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like someone needs to do this
Mm-hmm.
for the same reasons that Du Bois had done it. And
Mm-hmm.
so we begin to kind of look at, honestly, our Rolodex or our contacts in our phone and the emails and telephone numbers that we had. And there are a lot of prominent writers and artists that we know. And
Mm,
it was during the time of the pandemic. And it's
mm-hmm.
like, we don't know what these people are doing. We had created a wish list of people
Mm-hmm.
that we would love to be a part of this. And not even knowing, we comprised a list of almost 100 writers and artists, but we knew we needed about 50. And what
Right.
we did not expect is for a resounding and immediate yes to all of our requests. So we weren't able to even get to our list because some of the people that we knew were extremely busy shared with us later on. This is the kind of thing they had been hoping for, wishing for, or they didn't realize at the time, but they needed. And
That's
so
wonderful.
it was therapy for all of us.
That is what, so what I'm hearing is a lot of this was created during the pandemic.
At the very beginning, when we were all locked in the house, unsure of how long that would be, and while we were watching the horrors of George Floyd and many other Black people being murdered, disappeared, and um, just and disrespected on live television. So it was a moment where I think we were all kind of in shock or in a great deal of uncertainty. So this book opened up a creative opportunity for many of the folks who contributed to express that through the book. So while it wasn't about um, um, that hard time, the time definitely shaped and created a certain urgency around, let's contribute something, let's produce something out of love.
Hmm.
And I really, as one who's reading the book over and over, I really do feel the love in the contributions. And as a mother of three African American males, I
Mm.
honestly appreciate this book. The one I read to my sons first was Little Black Boy.
Oh, I
And
love
it's from the Brownie book, January 1921. And my youngest, he goes, "Wow, that's pretty." But my autistic son says, "Thank you." So
Hmm.
So it's like, this is a beautiful book. How did you decide through all of this wonderful Brownies material that you were finding? How did you decide what to include? How did you decide of all your wonderful artists, what original art to include? And how did you match these beautiful illustrations with this wonderful poetry to where it looks like it was designed together? Like, little black boy, Mr. Palmer, this is yours and it's gorgeous. And
Thank
then you
you.
turn around and then you like see something else from someone else. Let me count the ways. That comic strip, fabulous. How
Mhm.
did you how did you match everything so perfectly to where I can open a page at random and see something beautiful and read something like poignant?
Yeah, so I would love to claim, like, or I'm sorry, receive that it's perfect, but it's perfect. Um, we kind of see it now as something that possibly needs to be explored even further because there
Mhm,
was so much material that did not make it in.
mhm,
It was a group effort. Most of the group was Karida and the students that were helping her out, and she can tell
mhm,
you about that at Fisk University.
mhm.
It was having a great publisher like Chronicle who said, "We trust you, and we're going to move with
Nice.
you." And then they went as far as to go outside and hire Kieran Lewis, who's actually British but black, design it, and he brought a flair, a rhythm of design. We played with moving things around a little bit, but I think in certain ways it was very spiritual and very organic. It,
Mhm.
it came together the way clearly it was supposed to.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That brings something I noticed. The chapter School Days
Ooh.
focuses primarily on Fisk University. What is the significance of Fisk University to the both of you? Because
Mm.
I
Hmm.
So much. First of all, I love me some Fisk University. Shout out to Fiskites out there. So a couple of things. Fisk University is W.E.B. Du Bois's alma mater. So while he is the first African American to earn a doctorate from Harvard, and he also earned a bachelor's degree from Harvard and another doctorate from the University of Berlin, he got his start at Fisk University.
amazing. Do
His
tell.
daughter, Yolande, also graduated from Fisk as a legacy graduate. So that alone, situates Fisk as a very important institution when we want that we wanted to center and highlight in the Brownies book. We talk about other HBCUs, y'all, so don't come after us, but there's a lot of Fisk love there. And also, during the time when we were in the process of starting to receive contributions from the artists and the writers,
Mhm,
um, Charley and I had moved to Nashville, where we
mhm,
both had committed to a year of service at Fisk. So Charley was an artist in residence. I was the inaugural director of the John Lewis Center for Social Justice, just helping to do some infrastructure work there. So we had the opportunity to work with students. And we put together a team of Fisk undergrads who worked as an editorial team to help curate the way that you love the way that the book flows. It's very much because of the dialogue and commitment from those Fisk students who helped pour into this book and make it sing and make it go together the way that it does.
that is wow. Well, thank you to the Fisk students. Thank you for giving them the opportunity to participate in such a beautiful work of art. I'm sure they're very proud when they see this. What do you have
Oh,
any of the students' reactions when they saw the final product?
yes, well, one thing I forgot to share is they were so good
Mhm,
that towards the end of the internship, I offered them an opportunity to submit a piece of work that I would consider for the
mhm.
book. I did not promise them a publication, and all of the work was so good. Each of them are published in the Brownies book, so they all have a story published, many of them about their experience at Fisk in that book.
And it's since school days, or is it all? Oh.
Some of
Wow.
them are in school days, so you'll see Amber Curtis's piece, um, Dekara Sweat in school days as well. Ooh, Asante Bates has a beautiful poem that takes you all over campus. Makai Yant he has several pieces throughout the Brownies book, including
Okay.
some games in Let Me Count the Waves.
I like the Kendra Sweats when that's one of the ones I had tabbed because of the color pictures. And I thought that was a really good addition, is like to put some life in, like, and I don't know, it's just made Fish seem more real to me.
Mhm.
I went to a PWI, so HBCUs have always been magical.
Mhm.
And this book made it seem even more magical. But then when I look at Miss Sweat's pictures, it's like it's also reality that brought it home and it grounded it. So I love this edition. I really thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So you're talking about like the technical part, and that is one thing is interesting. When you say you recruited different uh, authors and artists, um, once you recruit them, what is the process for evaluating their work and to see if it matched your vision of the final product?
You know, that's kind of interesting because if you can imagine, there are some very noted writers that are a part of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so glad that Karida had the responsibility of asking some of these greats to at times edit your story. I remember one in particular, but for me, it was really it was more of a difficult challenge because there are times that James Ranson,
Mm-hmm.
who's a noted and he's won numerous awards as a book illustrator as well as writer.
Mm-hmm.
When we asked him, I think he may have submitted as many as 6 or 8 different illustrations. And
Okay.
we had thought about it initially in the design to get one piece from everyone. But we
Mm-hmm.
ended up in certain cases because there were so many hard, wonderfully well done, it was hard to just decide on one. So you'll see certain artists that appear a lot. One of the reasons that I appear a lot is because at some point we just didn't want to keep going back to the pot and asking for more art.
Right.
It was like,
Right.
you know what, I can do that instead of asking someone else to give themselves. Because we were only, when it came to compensating them, we were only compensating everyone a certain amount of money. And so we
Okay.
thought it was too big of an ask.
You know, that that brings a good question that I've wondered. So you're doing it right. And thanks to many very high profile lawsuits in the music industry, the average person understands copyright infringement. We understand royalties and we understand creative licensing, but we do not understand the process of doing things the right way and compensating people appropriately for their talents and their contributions. How is that process? What are the key steps to that process to do it right? And how complicated is it?
Mm. Thank you for that question, because this is really important to talk about. Um, and you're absolutely right. So, first off, full transparency, Charley and I, when we pitched the book, we earned an advance to compensate us for the book, but the publisher did not put any stipulations on what we had to do with that advance, including paying the contributors. But we just off the gate said, okay, babe, it's going to cost this much to um, hire somebody, to be able to be a project manager to staff for this, and then we need to split the advance. So that's how we went about it. So the contributors, nobody made a ton of money off the top of the book, but we wanted to make sure to be equitable and fair about how we were then distributing the money for it. And also, look, we are, like Erica Badu said, we're artists and we're sensitive about our stuff. Okay. So when people are trusting us, we're asking for original work from poets, from fine artists, from people who's not only make their livelihood from this, but this is their calling. And we had to really respect that. And they trusted us enough to give us the piece and trust that we would do something good with it at the end of the day. So at the very least, we made sure to also offer them in the words of Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter, make sure they get their intellectual reparations in this book too. Every piece of art is cited with the artist, the medium, the title. We really tried to be as thorough as we could with that attribution and recognition process through the book, not only because it's the right thing to do, but we want everybody who enjoys this book to be able to say those names, to be able to say, oh, I love that Lavette Ballard piece. Oh my goodness, Amber Curtis, her story is beautiful and inspired me. So it is this collective love letter that Charley and I stewarded, but by no means are we the, end all be all of the Brownies book. This was a collective act on behalf of all of us.
There is a question from the audience that I was going to save till later, but I really got to know. So when are you publishing the next volume? Like, so.
So the first question is, do they have the first volume? Uh, we
That's a good one.
have that. Quite honestly, because that question has been asked several times now.
Mm-hmm.
It never crossed our mind. It was a project that we put our heart and our energy, our soul and spirit behind, and never thought that this was something that we would pursue possibly a volume 2, 3, and 4. And we talk about it now as something like, you know what? If someone decides to take that baton and lead on, we are going to cheerlead. We want to keep it Black.
Yeah.
As we've mentioned before, it's like all the authors, all the artists in this book are Black. And so if someone wants to take it on, or we're going to, and we're more than willing to contribute, it's a lot of work. And so to be contributors is a much easier thing to do. I wanted to kind of address the thing that Karida had mentioned too. Also, one of my artist friends is again a noted, highly awarded artist, illustrator,
Mm-hmm.
and he was one of the few that said, "Well, I have to talk to my agent. I have to talk to my publisher. I have," and I said, "Listen, I know you. You know me. We've known each other for a long time. That only bogs down the process. That only slows it down, and they're going to try to negotiate for a lot more money. This is a love letter." And as the boys had said, we're asking you to give us your very best. But,
Mm-hmm.
we would say in our case, but within limits as far as our budget.
Right. Which is a great improvement from what the boys was able to do.
Yes.
Now, honest question. How much did the original Brownies book cost? Like, what was its subscription? And how did they market it to Black families back
Mm. Oh, I love that. I'll take this question. It was $1.50 for a 1 year subscription
then? Hmm.
or 15 cents per issue. Okay. And Du Bois advertised the Brownies book, the coming of the Brownies book, through the Crisis magazine. So, as many of us know, uh, Dr. Du Bois was the editor in chief of the Crisis magazine, which was the NAACP's media outlet. And at the time, it was one of the most subscribed Black periodicals coming out of the United States. Okay, so he had a vast readership, and in the months leading up to the Brownies book, he started making announcements in the Crisis magazine about the mission of the Brownies book, that it was coming. This is his intention with it. This is the audience that he is thinking about. And he was encouraging parents at the outset to get engaged. If you
Hmm.
have graduation photos, or if a young person that has something that they've written that they want to submit, he encouraged that so he could incorporate the community from the beginning in the Brownies book.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm sorry, I'm just up here. I'm geeking out. I have to apologize ahead of time. For anybody on Facebook who does not realize why I'm geeking out, I was raised to where people like Dr. Brown would have been my hero when I was 15. I would have freaked out meeting you at 15. I was not taught to idolize celebrities or people who were in the entertainment industry. Not they were awesome, but I was taught, you know, be really smart because that takes a lot of work. So I have to apologize. I'm over here like every time you talk. I'm really sorry. And I do have a question for Dr. Palmer. This is a very important question. And it sounds silly, but it's very important. Crayola or rose art?
Mm.
And I ask that because if a child is interested in art and a parent wants to nurture that on very little money, what
Mhm.
can they do?
Did you say rose art?
Rose art. That's the ones you get at the Dollar Tree.
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
So that's the answer. It'd be
Yeah.
creative. You know what? It's education,
Hmm.
and in education is it's us getting informed of the value of our culture.
Yes.
And like my mother, quite honestly, she didn't know, but apparently she knew. Like she knew I had a passion for drawing. And so she did what she could to give me access to material. And
Hmm.
but that material did not mean a sketchbook. It meant a back of typing paper. And sometimes, many a time, there was words on the other side of that. But she brought a bunch of it. Instead of destroying it when she worked as a secretary, she would bring it home. And I had stacks and stacks of paper. Um, but it is very much an investment in your child. And
Hmm.
like my mom and many people here are starving artists, and it's a frightening thing, and it's a very real thing. But I say to young people all the time, I say, find something that you enjoy doing, and you'll never have to work a day in your life. And if you work on that skill, you master that skill, you'll have a there will be a greater demand for what you're producing, whatever that might be.
This is true. And what would you say to the parent who says, but coding? I want them to learn to code,
Mm.
but this, but that.
Mm.
And how can I, as a librarian who wants to put an art book in a child's hands and the parent rips it out and puts a Black History book, not that
Mm,
Black History isn't important,
mhm,
but how it's like they are both a representative of the African American and the Black experience.
mhm. See, I think being a parent is to protect, and your attempts to protect is sometimes, I think, misinformed. Um, and so I think that I get the idea, give them a skill set, and a skill set that will always, this is the crazy part, always be in demand. But when it comes to technology as we see it right now, a lot of the technology jobs are starting to be replaced by
Hmm.
AI. And so, like, bring a skill set. I almost think bring a skill set that uses your mind and your hands, and that cannot be replaced. And so, it really is. I get it as a teacher, where I'm teaching at a university level, and these young students are in my class, and they're taking what do they call the requirement courses, and
Hmm.
art being one of them. It's an easy A. I never treated it that way. I was always getting in trouble because I was not giving everybody A's. But I would encounter a med student who really had it, like really were gifted as an art. And I'm like, and I get it. I know your parents want you to pursue being a doctor, or I feel it makes sense. But in the end, will you be happy? And it sounds like a a wishful thought to pursue your joy, your happiness. But I think that's where the answer is. I think that's why we face so many people today that are so unhappy because they're doing something where they chase the money. And at some point, money is just simply not the answer. And money is not happiness.
That is true. But when it comes to money, I do want the Facebook population and everybody to know you are a wonderfully successful, artist. I mean, I'm just going to read a few things that just had me geek out over you a little bit because I want to have the share to geek out love. You were selected by John Legend of all people in 2020 to create a cover portrait for his Grammy Award winning Bigger Love album. Okay, I loved that album. And here's the fun thing. I didn't realize I was holding your art.
Mm,
That's a big deal. It's like, oh, that's nice. And then and it's like, wait a minute. I was holding the art of an African American artist.
mhm,
And I'm not done. You were commissioned by Time Magazine to create cover art for the America Must Change July 2020 issue. When we were at our most heartbreaking, you also, for all of us gaming nerds, You created the 75th anniversary of 2K22. I mean, come on. That is dynamic. That is awesome. How do you come about all of these wonderful projects? Like, first, how did John Legend find you? Second, how did EB Sports find you? Like, and how come I did not know you were exist until I picked up this book? How is that dichotomy there? Like, I should know who you are
You
because
know
I know
what?
that game. I know that album.
It's moving. It's moving in a space of love and respect for your ancestors. It's nothing else. I mean, I can tell you all kinds of marketing strategies. Some of them work, some of them don't. You can put a lot of money and effort into doing that. But if you are obedient to the ancestors and you honor where you came from, then what you're seeking will find you. And that's the only thing I can explain. I'm not well, I mean, I'm well connected now, I'm very say, but I wasn't well connected then. And so how did Ronnie 2K, who is the front man for NBA 2K, a game I'd never heard of before, that time, contact me and find me, right? It's like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
It's just really like, even like, if you can imagine the conversation I had with John Legend, when we talked about South Africa, which is where Karida and I had just come back from,
Hmm.
he said, South Africa is my second biggest market. And I said, and I had taken pictures in Cape Town of landscapes, and I'm like, I don't know why I'm taking pictures of landscapes. Those landscapes end up being in this book. No, I'm sorry, the album. That
Hmm.
again, I'm listening. I'm just doing what I've been told to do, and it realizes itself by just being obedient.
That's beautiful.
Mm.
Thank you. Obedient to the ancestors. How do you calm your ego to where you're able to listen to them and follow through with what they said? I mean, I hear what they say and I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you really sure?
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I learned very quickly is it's often a concept or idea or message that opposes what I was thinking.
Hmm.
That's when I know it's what I'm supposed to be doing instead. Um, there's still a ton of activity going on. There's still a ton of arguments going on in my head, my heart, my soul, my spirit. But every time I listen, including my lovely, amazing wife, um, when I listen, I find the joy that I've been seeking everywhere else. And that's what it's about.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, I honestly, I pray that I can take that wisdom and actually use it properly because that is a lot. That is a lot of wisdom in just a very few words. I'm going to go back to the chat right now. Um, there is a Jacqueline Thompson. She wanted to shout out and tell you she loves the book.
Mm.
And there is a Jennifer Mack Watkins that says hello to Mr. Carter. So I just want to know if you know those names, they are here, they are supporting you. Thank you for being on the chat though on Facebook. If you're on Facebook Live and you have questions, please put them in the chat because we want to hear some of the questions for you. If I forgot the standard blurb of every other social media person, forgive me. Click like, share. Please click like, share, because we want everybody to be able to appreciate, Dr. Brown, Mr. Palmer, and the new Brownies book, A Love Letter. Going back to W.E.B. How do I pronounce his name? This is one thing that has been an argument all through high school. May you please teach those of us who have never pronounced it properly, how do we say his name?
Du Bois.
Du Bois.
And in fact, Dr. Du Bois settled this score for us. He was prolific in reflecting on his life and
Hmm.
creating autobiographical sketches. So he wrote three of his own autobiographies, okay, during different phases of his lifetime. But he'd also leave little notes.
Hmm.
And one of them that I came across, I won't recall which book, he settles his own score and he says, you pronounce it Du Bois, and he spells out the DU, puts the space BOYZ. So he makes sure that we understand the assignment.
Thank you. And actually, that's now going to be his new rap name. Do BOYZ. That's right.
That's right.
We're gonna put some of his, speeches to some beats. I can see
Yes.
that selling. I mean,
MC Du Bois.
yes, I like that. So back to my geek out on the book. My favorite chapter, honestly, was Young Langston, because that was the first African American poet I was introduced to as a child. Um, and so I wanted to know, when you were a child, who inspired you? What eventually had you grow up to get this love of literature and learning and this love of art, Mr. Palmer? You're not left out of this one. So, who inspired you as a child to help you grow up to be this one?
Zora Neale Hurston.
Oh,
I do not know how, but at 9 years old, I got my hands on Their Eyes Were Watching God. And that is the first chapter book that I read. And I can remember this like yesterday, and I'm nowhere near 9 years old anymore. And I laid in my parents' bedroom on their bed, and I spent all day and well into the night clinging to that book. It awakened something in me. It was so beautiful, but it was beyond that. It was alive, and it made me know that I too was alive. So I was reading prior to that, but that's when I was introduced to literature
yeah.
and Black literature. And my curiosity just went on and on from there, but that sparked something in me. And we thought it extremely important to include the Young Langston chapter in the new Brownies book, because he published his first poems in the Brownies book.
Oh, okay.
So Langston Hughes, as a young man still in high school, sent W.E.B. Du Bois samples of his writings, yes, poetry, but also a short play and some stories. And Dr. Du Bois thought the work was good enough and published it in the Brownies book first, and he also went on to publish many, many pieces in the Crisis magazine. So what you see in the new Brownies book are all of Langston's works from the original Brownies book. We've republished them and made it its own chapter.
I thank you for that. Thank you. I have to say, I laughed very hard at The Lament of a Vanquished Bow.
I love that
That
one too.
I read that out loud at work. I think it was, to me, this was so sweet and so very middle schoolish that I think this is the perfect like example of what would be in a book for children. Well, understanding children's woes. So yeah, I like that. Mr. Palmer, your turn. Who was your spark? Who lit your spark when you were younger?
You know what? I'm thinking two things. I'm thinking about the book I read, and I'm thinking about the art that I saw. And I think that what was significant was the art I saw. Um, um, there is literally awards acknowledging there's a museum after his name, but his name is Israel Jack Keys. He did a book called A Snowy Day. And
Hmm.
what was significant, there were two things significant about it. It was I saw a black boy, and I saw a black boy that looked like me. And I saw a black mother, heavy set in brown, and looked like my mother. And so I don't think I could read when I first found it, and I looked at it over and over again. But what it inspired and sparked in me was many, many years later, 30 years later, I am adding collage and textures and patterns to my work. And I know it originated from seeing that and that work and seeing something that made me feel a certain way. And that's where I think that's where I move now. I move in a place, in a space where I want you to feel something.
Mm.
I think that when I saw that book, and I can so clearly see it even this moment, we actually have one of the prints hanging up in the house somewhere. But it's just the idea of looking at something that sparked something I wanted to eventually do. And I came to the children book industry very late. I think I did my very first children's book at probably 40.
Okay. And
Where
the
around
title
there.
of that is, so we
That's,
can all go and look for it.
that's Mama Africa. And I won an award for that John Steptoe Award for
Uh-huh.
Best New Illustrator.
Uh-huh.
That led to I'm probably around 13 or 14 books now.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. I'm sorry, my jaw just dropped. I know that book
I see
very well.
Nicole's mind just going all kind of
I,
places.
again, it amazes me how you know someone's work before you realize who they are. And then, whereas, Dr. Brown, your husband's just so casually mentioning things that he's done. And I'm like, pause on the play. I touched that. I knew that. And it's like how Mr. Palmer has secretly webbed himself into the fabric of American life, not just African American life, into American life. You're now a part of the fabric of, we can't erase you or escape you because you were there, and yet you were still so humble and still so relaxed about it. Yeah, I wrote Mama Africa, won that with the John Stepped. It's like interesting how it's just to you just every day, and I admire that. I admire that about both of you. You're so hardworking,
Let
and
me
you're so dynamic, but
let me
so
let me
relaxed.
let me correct. I did not write it.
You illustrated it.
Yeah, illustrated.
Yeah.
I've had the fortune to be able to write and illustrate one book, and that
Yeah.
book was The Legend of Gravity.
The Legend of Gravity.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the one I wrote and illustrated, but everything else have been my contribution was illustration.
Yes. That was my misspeaking.
Okay.
Illustrations.
I don't want to get credit for something that
No,
I
no,
did.
no, no. Do not come out of with the lawyers, California. I messed up. Illustrations. Speaking of illustrations, the She Rose chapter. How and did you, how did this come about? This is just, first is beautiful art, and then it's just well succinct paragraphs, just really like embracing the essence of who these ladies are. How did this chapter come about?
Chase Malone.
Who is Chase Malone?
Chase Malone is a brilliant young scholar, undergraduate at Spelman. Chase might be a junior or even a senior at this point, but she came on later in the process as a summer intern to work with us to submit the book. We thought the new Brownies book was good to go and ready to go to the publisher to print. And that summer we had Chase just, go through it, give us some remarks, and she said, this book needs something that acknowledges the contributions that Black women have made to the world. And it needs to be specific. And I said, well, that's a lot of work. And we thought we were done, young Chase. If you would like to see that in the Brownies book, then I'm going to task you with curating the list and getting that part of the book started. And she did. She selected all 26 names. And from there, Charley just took it and sketched each and every one of those women. And Chase then put together the quiz that's at the end. And I'll tell you something that's, first of all, I love that chapter. It's phenomenal. It's important. It's special. So shout out to Chase for making us better. But also, I send that section to so many sister friends of mine who are academics, who
Mm-hmm.
are experts in Black feminist thought and women's history, and I say, I'll give you $100 if you can name each of these women off of the photo. Nobody's been able to do it yet, which just shows me that we're always in the process of learning. It's always important to tell our stories and not assume that we all just have access to this and know everything, because that's the beauty of life. We're lifelong learners.
That is true. We are lifelong learners. I just want you to know there was, Miss Thompson says again that Charles White was her first art spark. So I want to put that out there that someone in the comments, they also contributed. Thank you very much. And yes, the contributions of African American women are really powerful. And I know that in a world that is dominated by men, we can be forgotten. So this is a wonderful addition, and it gives me joy because I did not know about most of these people. I mean, you know, like their names or you think you know their names, but just a little summary of who they are and how they contributed is beautiful. So where do we go from here as a culture,
Hmm.
as a people? It seems like you've given us a start. You've given us a spark. Where do we go from here?
I think that book that Dr. Karida Brown's working on is where we go from here. I
Ooh,
don't know if you
okay.
want to mention anything about that. For me, I think it's an awareness of self. It's awareness of our community. It's making a commitment. When we made the decision to spend a year in Nashville, it was with the understanding that our actions are bigger than us.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing has nothing to do with us.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of what politics are going on or whatever might be, we're coming for a year to give our knowledge, give our experience, our expertise to this university to let these young people know that they are loved. And so where are you making that sacrifice? Because it requires that. We talked about, and that was the concept behind it, we call the Black Exodus. It is this idea. It's like take that brilliant Black talent of yours and give it back to the Black community because there's a greater appreciation for it. Or if nothing else, even if these young people at times don't recognize who they're in a room with this minute, one
Mm-hmm.
day when they realize it might have been the spark that changed the world. And so it's like it starts with the effort. And at least I want to believe that in producing this book, it was an effort to let these people know how much Dr. Karida Brown and myself love them.
Thank you. Dr. Brown, what do you have to say? If there's anything you want to add?
Intentionality,
Mm-hmm.
clarity, connection, and the only real energy that exists, love.
Wow. Thank you. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Well, as of right now, there are no questions in the chat, but I do have a very important closing question for you. This is critical to this week. This is critical to Sunday because I believe you guys can predict the answer. Who's going to be the biggest winner? The Niners, the Chiefs, or Usher's halftime show?
Woo.
And will anybody be in church on Sunday?
Look, I'm riding for Usher the whole way. That's all I care about. I'm thinking about what my outfit is. I'm going to be warming up by playing. I was 13 when My Way came out, and I've been an Usher fan my whole life. Okay, so that's what it's about for me. He won already.
Okay, so basically there's a football game in the middle of your Usher concert.
Exactly.
That sounds like those black college classics. You know, you're not there for the game. Yeah. So, and when someone experienced it for the first time, like I did when I was about 15, I was just blown away. It's like I can't tell you what game, who was playing. The band was so amazing. Um,
Mhm.
because I've stepped away from football, I did think that the Ravens were going to go all the way, and so I don't think that Mahone is beatable when he's playing at his peak, and
Okay.
great he's a great athlete that's changed the game. Now I'm talking sports. I'm sorry.
No,
I
no,
think
it's okay.
I think the Chiefs are going to win.
You
I
think
like
the Chiefs are going to win? Okay. Okay. I have to say, I'm usually here for the commercials, but but the halftime show definitely. And I just can't root for the 49ers. I'm sorry, Oakland Raiders all the way.
oh okay.
And by default, I don't want to root for the Chiefs because Mahomes kind of cocky and cute, and you're not supposed to like that kid. You know that kid in high school that he know he's cute and he know he's talented and he know he's going places, so he's arrogant and you want to hit him. He now is like the top football player in the country, and it's like kind of annoying. So I don't. So like, go Raiders. So that if there's anybody who's wondering how to get this wonderful book, it is available in all major outlets. You know, the Evil Empire of Amazon, please use it. 2 days. Barnes & Noble, please use it. If they don't have it on the shelf, Barnes & Noble will order it for you. Please go to an indie bookstore if you can, and there's one in the area. They will get it for you. Now, I got to shout out the plug to my favorite indie bookstore in Oakland, Marcus Books. In Oakland, you could call them. They will have it shipped to you. I'm not saying I have a favorite. I'm just saying I have a favorite. But if all of that fails and you cannot support financially, support with your heart and go to your local library and get it. We have several copies in the Oakland Public Library. Talk to your local librarian, see if they can order a copy. It is on most major outlets that libraries use to purchase materials, because we want this book to be successful financially so that the publisher, Chronicle Books, will give them another advance to make another one. Like, I want everybody who's listening to me, listen, this is how this works. They get in advance, they create an amazing work of art. We buy the art. I did my part. I bought it for the library. We buy the art. Then the publishing company says, hey, they can make us money. So please support the art, support the artists. Remember, you're supporting a plethora of artists. Yes, I'm holding it like it's a Bible. You're supporting a plethora of artists when you support this work.
May I make a shameless plug, Nicole?
Shameless plug.
We are so happy to share that the new Brownies book has been nominated for the 55th NAACP Image Award in the category of Outstanding Nonfiction Literature. So we'll find out on March 16th. If we win, we are nominated alongside a phenomenal roster of Black authors. So we're happy no matter what, but we are so honored by the nomination.
All right, and have your important people hit up ALA and get this on the Coretta Scott King evaluation list. Because if you win, it's in San Diego, and I will be there at 7 in the morning just to say hi to you personally.
And we will be signing your book.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Okay, since there are like no internet questions, I could let you go a little bit early, or we could just random talk about the winds and the blows and the trees.
Well,
Okay, I'll let you go.
since the archival staff here at the Rose Library at Emory probably want to start cleaning up,
All
I'm
right.
gonna log off. But
Okay, you can do your job.
this has been a lovely conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Oakland.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.